Morning and welcome to the Clermont County Board of Commissioners meeting. As with all of our meetings prior to actually starting the official meeting, we always ask for local clergy to come and lead us in prayer. This morning we have Rex Sherlocky here from Trinity Christian Fellowship. Rex, you've come here many times. Thank you so much for your service at always filling in here. Podium's yours. Would you lead us in prayer?
Okay, thank you. It's a great honor to be able to come. I just want to put a challenge out to everybody. Give more than you've ever given before to someone that's in need. Amen?
Amen.
Try it for this season. Because the word says if we give, it shall be given back to us. Good measure, pressed down, shaking together, running over. Just see if God doesn't hold to his word and bless you in doing that. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you lifting up Clermont County. And all the county commissioners, Father, that are willing to serve in that capacity and do it to the best of the ability that they have, and even go beyond allowing you to work through them. So give them your wisdom, peace, and patience. May they have servants' hearts and a depth of insight into all matters that they have responsibility for in serving Clermont County. Lord, I ask for your intervention in the assistance for families and children, especially the ones that are struggling during these times of uncertainty. We are blessed in Clermont County because we are able to meet these needs through various institutions. And I ask for your blessing upon at least some of them, the Children's Protective Service, the Foster Care Adoption Agency, Child Focus, Head Start, YMCA, Domestic Violence Shelter, Developmental Disabilities. Strengthen and give the personnel of these agencies hearts of compassion as they minister to those who are in their care. And Father, we have an excellent court system, and we pray for all the judges that serve in the common pleas, domestic, municipal, probate, and juvenile courts, sheriff's departments, police departments, EMTs, highway patrol, fire departments, all the agencies that are for public safety. Your blessing be upon them and give them great wisdom. Also, Father, we ask your blessing on the Mental Health and Recovery Board. Lord, there are more people now with everyday stress, having hard times coping and making sense of life. With the rise of the suicide rate in youth and veterans, we need your intervention into their lives so that they may see the value of their own life. Thank you, Father, for all the personnel that serve in this capacity, touching the lives of individuals that are hurting and in some ways just don't know how to maintain. Give them your heart for these hurting individuals, showing your abundant love and having words to speak that will bring hope and healing. So bless the mental health resources, substance abuse resources, the suicidal prevention, and Lord, any other agencies who are working with someone that's in need and needs to be cared for. We ask that you make known of any seniors in our county that would be having difficult time and would be made known of the services provided by our county. We ask your blessing upon the Adult Protective Services, caregiver support, and Meals on Wheels, and all the personnel that keep these functioning. And Father, we pray for our faith institutions, Lord, that you would bless the churches and the pastors, and Lord, their hearts would go out, and that Lord, through the blessing that the church can offer to the community, that many would be met. But Lord, we know this all takes finances, and Father, we're not going to trust in the taxes that come in. We're not going to trust in the grants and aids. We're going to trust in you. Because we know that even if that does not meet the need, you can, through supernatural ways, Lord, have this county continue to be in the black. And we just thank you for that. So, Lord, I just pray your blessing upon every one of us here today. And I just pray, Father, for the agenda, that, Lord, your blessing would be upon it and your wisdom would be given. And we ask it all in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Corcoran, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Rex. Moving on with our agenda that's been prepared for us, item number B is the first thing after our call to order. It's approval of regular session minutes of 11/13/2024. Board, you've had these minutes early, had an opportunity to review them. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Board, we were going to move to item number C. I am going to move item number D up, if that's okay with you, Board. Item number D is public participation. We have a full agenda today, and we have a review of the budget for this year, which obviously is going to take a pretty good amount of time. We're going to hold public participation to a 30-minute duration in total, 5 minutes at a time. So let me read. We've reached public participation. During this time, the board does not answer questions nor engage in debate. No member of the public may comment about a matter is not in the purview of the county commissioners. The commissioners are not expected to comment on matters brought to the board during this time. Each speaker will speak once, be recognized by the board president before speaking. In accordance with the board's rules of procedure, each person will have 5 minutes. And again, we'll hold that duration to 30 minutes. Anyone like to speak? Go ahead. You're right there in the front. Tell us who you are and where you live.
Sandra Schaller Berkmeyer, 1874 Woodville Pike Ocean. People of this county have been coming to these meetings for several months, begging for help for the dog shelter and to stop the suffering of these helpless dogs. The shelter doesn't even have a qualified administrator. We keep being told that the county has $1 million from the taxpayers and a $60,000 donation. Where is it? Who has it? What current shelter needs is it being used for? I know a young woman perfect for the shelter administrator's job. BS in animal sciences from a top university for such a degree, has worked and studied with some of the country's best veterinarians, volunteers at Four Paws for Ability, and trains service dogs. Her latest sweet girl, Alice, is now helping a nonverbal autistic boy in Mason. And I challenge you to hire her. However, she would be working for the dogs and the welfare of the dogs. It is time for solutions and transparency on this problem. Apparently, the county prosecutor, Mark TeKelvey, not the county treasurer, has control of these funds, which are to be dispersed by the county commissioners for the dog shelter. Really? It's no wonder nothing is being done. He doesn't care about the welfare of animals or people. He is too busy arresting and persecuting God's people who have actually rescued dogs, horses, donkeys, etc. Caring, honest, private citizens just trying to help animals, friends, and family are being vilified, threatened, and charged with outrageous accusations of abuse and more, then prosecuted. Why? What are the real reasons behind these actions? Why such gross negligence, never allowing facts or investigation for the accused to be heard? Lawyers and politicians using the law and the courts against the innocent people that they are supposed to protect? We've been hearing a lot about that lately, I think. We need honest, decent, sincere, humble, honorable servants of those who elected them, people with integrity to be stewards of this county. We, the people, deserve transparency and truthfulness and actual solutions for this county's problems, not any excuses.
Thank you. Next. Go ahead, Nick. Tell us who you are and your address.
My name is Nikki Potts. I live at 902 Carpenter Road, Loveland, Ohio, and I also am coming to talk about the shelter. So I come today to discuss the shelter. I had hopes that after the election, more attention would be placed on the shelter. This is your chance to do better. This is your chance to get the appropriate staff to fix your shelter. It's broken. The shelter needs to have the shelter has needs that must be met for the dogs of Clermont County. We need someone running the shelter that understands what shelter needs. We don't need a new program for volunteers when we have dogs deteriorating in the shelter. We have dogs that need medical treatment that are going without medical treatment. Does anyone know anything about veterinary medicine? Common sense would tell someone that if an animal has worms in his heart, the heart will become enlarged. So let's wait for the heart to become smaller, let the heartworms multiply, and then be surprised when the heart is even larger. Thank God Cincinnati Care stepped up to start the treatment after we'd been sitting around for months waiting. Tamitha is another example. If she were being monitored going through heartworm treatment, proper protocol would have been thoracic radiographs. This is what a thoracic radiograph looks like. So this is a VD shot. These are lateral shots. This right here is the heart. These are the lungs. How could you check a heart and not see the lungs? I mean, it's at this point, Mets would have been seen. Being in the veterinary world for many years, I know how difficult euthanasia is. But why not have her surrounded by volunteers, people that loved her, people that have been connected with her? Commissioner Corcoran, would you not want to be next to your beloved pet during euthanasia? Commissioner Painter, would you not? And Commissioner Batchelor, I know you would cross heaven and hell to be there for Max. Why did we just take this dog that we should have been monitoring the whole time to know cancer just doesn't poof one day, it's there. I mean, you see signs, over time. So are we not medically checking these dogs on a daily basis? This doesn't just happen. So Angie will tell you that there are 6 or 7 veterinarians in the county that we work with, but no one ever knows who they are. Why is this a secret? You would think that they're providing a service for the county. I'm sure at a reduced cost. Recognition would be welcomed. We have recognition awards for every department. I've come in here numerous times and seen you guys bring people up for different things, the veterans, which is a very important thing. I'm not saying it isn't. But don't you think the veterinary staff that's also doing a service for you would like some recognition also? You have dogs in isolation, and I'm not sure that the illnesses are even understood. You have dogs with hookworms and giardia, but in the same sentence talk about zoonotic diseases. Zoonotic diseases are something that humans can get that are passed on from our pets. Hookworms and giardia are zoonotic diseases, and your staff doesn't even understand that. You need proper training for the staff before this becomes public health concern. A horrible tragedy happened yesterday in Bethel. Thankfully, the league stepped up and is helping the animals that we're able to rescue. What if they weren't able to? There are many government-run shelters in the state that do better than the state minimum and care for other animals also. So many people that I know and people that understand rescue have offered to help, yet they're just turned away. Why? You need help. I feel sorry for Angie. She was given an impossible task. But Angie's killing dogs because, in her own words, she doesn't know how to run an animal shelter. I come from the veterinary background, and I wouldn't imagine trying to run a school or a hospital or construction business because I don't know anything about it. The dogs are living, caring beings. You don't get a second chance when you make a wrong call. Please, for the sake of the dogs, and maybe someday cats, livestock, even the little critters, let's stop and get somebody who can run the shelter. So I'm not saying it has to be sent out, but let's get somebody who comes in and says, I know how to run a shelter. So that's all we're asking. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next. Yeah, go ahead. Tell us your name and your address.
Deanna Smith, 4231 Edinburgh Drive, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45245. My presentation is going to be a little different today. First, I want to sincerely congratulate you two on being reelected to your positions. And I'm going to tell you that amongst the community, I heard 2 different lines of thoughts of what we should do on behalf of the shelter with our votes for you guys. One was leave it blank. I don't fault them for doing that, but I want to put a name in there. So I chose to talk to the 2 candidates that ran against you. I'm just going to say one of them, I said, my interest is the shelter. I want to know what you're going to do for the shelter. And the answer I got back was, we're going to fix it. And I'm like, okay. That's not a vote-worthy response. So anyhow, congratulations to you two, but now it's time to roll up our sleeves because I've been coming here 2 months and little has been accomplished, except for I do appreciate, David, you coming to me when I'm here early and letting me know that the numbers are going down. That's positive, but we also need a lot more positive. I grew up in a house where my dad, who passed away in 1992, was an employee of ODOT. He rose from the Batavia Post to being superintendent of ODOT for the Southwest District. He also ran and was elected Tate Township trustee. So I see the political side, I see the government side. I was raised in a bipartisan family, but it was fun. I'm old. So it was back where they could agree to disagree and race each other to the firehouse to cancel out the other's vote. That's how it worked. And I believe my mom or my dad was probably the first Democrat my mom ever voted for. So that's how it worked in my house. And I try to bring that same energy that I grew up with to these meetings. I don't want to pick a side. I want to believe we're all on the same side. But I am getting a little disgruntled. I'm trying not to bring it here, but Angie admits that she's not the person for that job. She admits she's over her head. She's doing her damnedest, pardon my French, but she's doing her damnedest. But yet she was given a raise. Now I know how that works in county and state government. They're pretty automatic if it's like it was 100 years ago when my dad was employed. So maybe that it was just her time. But I grew up in corporate America where you had to have a merit increase. And as hard as she is working, her umbrella is caving in. And that's not really through any fault of hers, but I don't think she gets rewarded for it. Alex Price, I have not fact checked this yet, but I heard he got a raise. After what he did to Mr. Vogel, he should have been on written warning. That, and I hear he's also in the police academy, and that, I hope he matures a lot before they put him out on the streets with a gun. Anyhow, I'm going to get so far behind here. I knew it was going to take a while. I'm going to go ahead and say Chris Hicks should be able to film there. That he should. Mr. Painter, you asked him the last time, have you been through the orientation? He clearly said he hadn't, and he's not going to, but neither was Channel 5, 9, 12, or 19. Chris Hicks has every right, as anyone else, as a citizen of this county, to film in that shelter. And I will stand by that. His tactics are not mine. I'm not going to stand here and hold up a sign and be a part of a dog and pony show. I'm just going to tell you, as a voting citizen, that man should be able to film there. And I don't understand what the holdup is for the purchases that money is earmarked for. I think a washer and dryer, I'm going to try not to talk too far out of turn because I try to fact check before I stand up here and talk to you guys. Are we still looking for bids, or has that passed? Are you guys going to run the shelter? Unfortunately, I don't get to stay for the end of the meetings. I have a mom I got to take care of. But if we're going to do it, let's get it going. Let's hit the ground running. Roll up your sleeves. When my dad was voted into his position, he was out there helping the elderly in Bethel. He was part of the Bethel Woods project. He rolled up his sleeves and did firewood for them, not charge a penny, plowed their gardens. Let's roll up our sleeves and get this shelter on the road. And they've asked me to ask you guys for one last thing. I'm sorry, real quick. Somebody is trying to get authority to do a Thanksgiving dinner for the dogs. I get that that's more for our emotions. The dogs, you throw me an extra cup of kibble, I'm good. I get that. But if somebody could give whoever's asking that answer on a Thanksgiving dinner, it's much appreciated. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. Megan Dashley, 1672 Wilderness Ridge, Milford, Ohio. I have reached out to all three of you, as well as Tom Eigel, Angie Livesay, about these issues that I'm going to cover and have yet to receive a response. We don't know what we don't know, and I understand that. I'm not expecting you to know how to run a shelter. Angie was thrown into this. I understand that. But to know that you don't know what you don't know and not take action on that is a liability. You are continually talking about the liability. Me having my son in a car with a dog, a liability. Volunteer orientation being under volunteers lead, liability. The dogs, liability. Your current biggest liability is your untrained staff. Their lack of experience is killing dogs. I'm watching it happen in real time. Shelter medicine is recognized specialty by the American Board of Veterinary because it requires a particular skill set and understanding to provide both individual and large population care simultaneously. Shelter medicine requires the ability to adapt and innovate. It takes experience, strategy, and skills. It doesn't have off days. It doesn't have office hours. And shelter medicine can't wait until Tuesday when it's convenient for the staff. Instead of prioritizing timely and evidence-based treatment, valuable resources are being wasted on excessive testing of fecal samples. The consequence, dogs suffer both physically and emotionally, and treatable illnesses turn into life-altering and preventable conditions. The inability for the current medical staff to balance the physical risks and the mental health benefits by treating these dogs with proper protocol is costing lives. There's a vast difference between clinical veterinary practices and shelter medicine. Yet your continued lack of acknowledgement of this gap is what is bringing down our shelter currently. Sadly, it's the dogs who bear the consequences of human error. Samson, that was mentioned, I had the privilege of fostering him this weekend because we were told that he was no longer going to be receiving heartworm treatment at the request of our vet partners, and that he just needed a hospice foster instead. So we were just going to let him die. He came into the shelter 100 days ago. He had medical issues, heartworms, Lyme disease. He contracted pneumonia while in the shelter, whipworms, tapeworms. Of course, his heart was enlarged. He was put in isolation. He was limited human interaction by medical staff. And after multiple pleas for reassessment by our vet partners, they opted to just forego it and say that he was no longer going to get heartworm treatment. On Friday, we successfully transferred Samson to another facility that was willing to give him a fighting chance. And during intake, he tested positive for Lyme's disease, proving that he was never retested in our facility and never got the proper treatment. So now that leads me to wonder how many of the other dogs that are Lyme's disease positive on intake are still Lyme's positive because they have not been retested. Tamantha was mentioned. She spent 168 days in the shelter enduring heartworm treatment, multiple GI issues, prolonged isolation. And last week, she was euthanized after a cancer diagnosis. There was no exploration of alternative treatments, no second opinion sought, and no notification given to the people who loved and cared for her. Just a day before, she was observed by staff enjoying a walk, showing signs of life. Who authorized this euthanasia? Was it a single individual or was it a team? We have asked time and time again to include a team of qualified individuals to make this call. Her sudden euthanasia left us without a chance to advocate for her or say goodbye. Dogs like Surfer, who spent 71 days out of 103 days on site in isolation, is now seeing the long-term effects of that deprivation. Drax has been in the shelter for only 38 days today and is already experiencing severe shelter shock, which we brought to the staff's attention last week, and it was overlooked. He self-mutilates, biting his tail until he bleeds. He's spinning in his kennel until his paw pads are raw. And despite all of this, he is kept off limits for walks or socialization, which only accelerates his mental health decline. Something any experienced shelter professional would recognize. The benefits of human interactions outweighs the risk of contamination. Gandalf has been there since 11-4 with Giardia, a highly adoptable dog who was denied the ability to quickly move to foster or rescue. Still with Giardia today, and was just given the opportunity to be bathed and groomed. He sat with hair over his eyes, mats in his fur, unbathed, waiting for a clear fecal test. Brownie, now in isolation because he has diarrhea. Giardia is in and around the shelter. It has been for a while. Dirty water bowls, muddy areas, dirty mop buckets. Why do we continue to punish these dogs for something that is continually present in the shelter? And because I'm running out of time, we need someone with actual shelter medicine experience, and we need it now before we lose more dogs.
Thank you. Next. Seeing no one, I'll close public participation and we will move on with the agenda. Thank you so much for being here today. We will take all of the things that you've said under advisement. We will evaluate that and try to do whatever we can. No question about that. We want to ensure the health of the dogs in the shelter. We do, really and truly. I have been out at the shelter on occasions, more occasions than I wish I had time for. I've went up and made a visit at the Brown County Animal Shelter and spent time with Renee up there to see what they do different than we do to try to get, good evaluation of that. So thanks for coming today. So we will move on. We have a presentation today by Emily Akers, Director, Office of Management and Budget. Emily. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you. Well, good morning, board.
Morning.
So just bear with me. We have a lot of information to get through, and
They told us you were going to cover it in about 5 minutes.
oh, I wish.
That's why Debbie's here.
So does everybody.
That's why
else.
Debbie's here.
Debbie's here to hand you the water bottle. Hand you the water bottle.
She's my assistant, and I've been a little under the weather, so just bear
Sorry.
with me.
Got it.
Working hard on this one.
So we're going to look over the 2025, the draft appropriation. We are planning to have another presentation Monday, December 2nd, and then we are hoping to adopt on Wednesday, December 11th.
Okay.
So currently we have 105 funds with expenses that are included in our appropriation. We're going to focus mainly on the general fund. This is the largest discretionary fund within the county. The general fund is really the recurring costs that support our ongoing operations of all the departments. Pretty much every single elected official is under the general fund. The only one is the engineer's office has their own fund to support the engineer. By law, we have to balance. That means our expenditure level cannot exceed the projected available resources, which
Emily,
is
just for a second, but just for those who might be listening today and those that are in the audience, you talked about the engineers fund being a different fund. Just explain that for a second, where they get their funds from versus us.
so, well, there are 105 total funds. So
Right.
as of elected officials being paid, the engineer they are paid from their, motor vehicle and gas tax fund.
And license plate fees. Right?
Yep, which that funds their entire operations
Thank you.
outside of some new buildings that we are currently completing. So like I said, it needs to balance, which our expenses cannot surpass the projected revenue as well as your unobligated cash on hand. So we just cannot spend more than we have by each fund. So we're going to go into the general fund right now. So this is our estimate of our operating revenue. Right now, the non-operating are items that are one-time costs or they have a revenue line tied to it. But so within our operating, you can see we have an increase from 24. Our revised estimate is not the budget. I have updated these numbers to be more accurate of what is going to come in. Our property tax had a 28% increase from 2023, and that is tied to the triennial update that was collected for 2024, which reflects 2.7 million of our increase from 24 to 25, which is the largest part. Going into 25, historically, we have less than 0.5% increase on the property taxes. So that's what we have budgeted at. For sales tax, we had continued to see a climb since COVID. In 24, we revised our budget to 39.758, and we are not going to hit that. We are going to come in short about 2.8%. Without knowing December's, I just looked at historically what typically comes in December. We did have a much longer sales tax holiday in 24 than in the past. I'm hoping, though, that we'll reach the 20. I'm going to reappropriate the same amount for 25, anticipate the budget coming in at 39.7 million. The growth of sales tax has definitely slowed down. Our license and permits, this is mostly coming from building and the growth in the county continues to happen with the subdivisions, apartments, planned. There's a lot of plans in the process right now. The largest intergovernmental are the casino revenues, which have held flat over the past couple of years. There's been a slight increase. COVID, there was a jump, and it's kind of held that same. We're budgeting about $3.1 million. This also has the indigent defense reimbursement. Right now, I'm planning for 85%. These can change. In 22, the reimbursement for a very small amount of time went to 100%, then to 90, then it dropped to 70. It just, we plan hopefully to hold at least at 85% moving forward. This also includes the local government funds and the homestead rollback, which is tied to the property taxes. Charges for services. About $5 million of this is property related. 4.5 is the conveyance fees, which I will say surpassed the budget, the revenue estimate for 2024 by about $1 million. And this includes, we have the recorder's fees in here as well, indirect costs, tax settlement fees, court fees, and then also the comm center fees that we charge to other entities. For 25, a couple weeks ago, we adopted we are going to charge back $385,000 while the county is going to absorb the additional $121,000. So investment income, something great that's happened over the past couple years is our budget has revenue has drastically increased for this. In 21, we were just at $1 million, 22, 1.46. We anticipated $4.5 million coming in 24. We are going to hit about $6.4 million. We get the revenue estimate from the treasurer, and she is anticipating about $6 million in general fund, and that has to do with meters anticipation. We've locked in some higher rates on bonds long-term wise to help keep this investment income up over the next into the foreseeable future. So fines and forfeitures, this is just traffic fines. There's a slight increase in there. And then other revenues, that is our title surplus. The title fund gives back a surplus of $500,000. And then there's also some insurance costs that other departments have to pay back and lease revenue income. I do want to just kind of go over the history of the operating revenue. In 21, it increased 14%. And then 22, it went up 2%, 23, 8.5%, 24 was 6.7, and the 25 draft is 2.3. Our revenue, 24 was a large jump. 25 is, kind of slowing it back down a bit. So this is just really just looking at a pie of where our revenues are, what I just discussed. Our sales tax is just under 45% of our general fund revenue, so we highly rely upon that. And that's just something to keep noted. So now the general fund expenses. So if you look at the actuals for total operating expense from 22 into our 25 draft appropriation, there's a 29% increase in our general fund expenses. Keep in mind that our actuals, if there were vacancies that weren't used, that didn't happen in 25. We are budgeting for those vacancies. And we're going to look into each one of these program areas in upcoming slides. I'll get into more detail about. Oh, I do want to note, I'm sorry, Deb, will you go back one? In the non-operating, in 22 and 23 actuals, that included a $10 million and then $11.5 million transfer into our capital fund. So what was $21.5 million is what the general fund had built up, and then to transfer to help pay for really the large projects that are closing out right now is the juvenile expansion and the Philliger campus phase 1 project.
And these projects are being paid for out of a capital fund that has been built over years and is allowing a cash investment here in Clermont County without the use of bonds and or any type of debt.
The current, yes, what's happening right now and in 25 is all being paid for by cash.
There you go.
Again, just the pie chart to look at the whole area. What I do want to note is that when you add judicial services and criminal justice, that is 66.5% of our entire general fund budget. Throw in public service and you're just under 74% of our expenses go to criminal justice, judicial, and public safety. Then as a whole for the general fund, 75% of that is salary related. 25% is for the other services. All right, the criminal justice part of the general fund. So common pleas, probation. There was a slight reduction due to attrition. However, this is something I'm going to mention. I won't have to mention it every time, just so everyone knows. Their small increase is due to the health insurance cost. The general fund is absorbing just under $1 million for the health insurance increase that we did not pass, that the board did not pass on to any of the employees. So even if a department would request, their draft might be even a little higher than their request just because of the insurance increase that the county is absorbing. Juvenile detention and probation. So this is where they have a reclaim grant that they've been continuously having to move staff members out of the grant into the general fund due to the constrictions on the grant. It's more for programming. They also have contractual increases for detention for the food and medical care that has been included in this. Municipal probation, they had staff changes that actually reduced their budget. However, they've requested some incentive pay increases for their staff and probation officers that has been included in this draft. The sheriff, this is the largest increase in the 2025 budget, and it's due to the bargaining rates that were adopted in April of 2025. Overall, you can look, it's almost a $3 million increase, and just under $2 million of that is for the bargaining unit salaries and fringes. 77% of this entire group has to do of criminal justice is the sheriff's office and the adult detention center. And so those miscellaneous items are included in that 77%. Those are all sheriff related. The drug unit, labor negotiator, extradition, and then the CASC, which when you're looking down there, that bottom line that increased over the past couple of years is the CASC no longer receives the SOAR grant from Mental Health and Recovery Board to help recoup some of those expenses.
Emily, and not to pick, I just wanted to point out that your criminal justice page at the 36216, if you go back and look at the page right before, it's 36215. Just
Well, thank
wanted
you
to
for noting that
just
error
wanna
for
make
me.
sure.
Greatly appreciated.
I know it's not
This
much.
is the draft. Don't forget.
I
Okay.
get it. I get it.
Now I'm kind of thrown off. Okay. Judicial services. So this includes all the courts, all the clerk of courts, the prosecutor, and the public defender. The Court of Appeals, they billed the county. It had been off behind a year. They finally caught us up at the very end of 2023. So we're back to the 1-year appropriation. The common pleas, the clerk of the common pleas court. So they have some staffing changes, increase their salary some, and they have one-time expense requested for their new elected officials that's coming in January. Municipal clerk, they had a large increase in 2024 that was adding some additional staff to add second shift weekend hours. So it's being held flat for 2025 other than the health insurance increase, of course. Common pleas court, there's actually they had a decrease in 2024. They had requested a large amount a one time due to the potential number of capital cases that were pending. Those have mostly been closed, so they have backed that back out of their request. Domestic relations court, they had staff changes. And they had a little bit of increases approved, but it's pretty much flat rather than their health. Juvenile, they've had a lot of growth there. The guardian ad litem appointments and delinquency and custody matters. Assigned counsel interpreters have all added to their increases, as well as I'd mentioned before, the detention contractual for food and for medical. When their numbers are high, their food contract is on per meal served, not a flat fee. And they've had high numbers, so the expense is high there. Probate, they had, just some changes again with staff, which actually resulted in a slight reduction. Municipal court, you'll notice a reduction there. They have a computerization fund that had their balance had been kind of depleting somewhat due to a contribution made to the new case management system. So they asked in 24 if we would take the employee that is paid out of there and move them 100% to the general fund, which we did. And then in 25, it's 50% back to the computerization fund so that it can sustain that salary now. And hopefully in 26, then it'll be moved back 100%. The prosecutor had a position recently approved at session, funding for another criminal attorney. That is included in here annualized. Again, they had an increase last year for the high potential of capital cases, and that has been pulled back out, except now it is being offset. They were approved for Axon Justice, that software, in 2024. So starting in 25, they will be paying out of their appropriation the ongoing yearly software renewal. The public defender, indigent defense expenses are in there, but those also fall within juvenile probate, municipal, and common police courts as well. General government, this is the other elected officials. We've got the auditor's office. They include increase that are contractual with Tyler Technologies, as well as they added Tyler Payments this year, and the audit cost increase for next year. The engineer, this is their tax map. They have a very small portion that is part of general fund. This line item for the Board of County Commissioners, it includes the commissioners' facilities, HR, mailroom, OPI, planning, GIS, ISD, OMB, records, risk management, and miscellaneous non-departmental. So it is a large number. So part of the BCC non-departmental, risk management, we're anticipating about a 7% increase. We're still waiting to get the final numbers back on that, especially with adding in the new facilities that are finishing up. So that will all be moved into risk management this year, 125. BCC also, they approved additional position in 2024, so that is included in the 2025 appropriation. But outside of that, all the other departments are pretty well, appropriation is staying flat except for the health insurance. The Board of Elections, they have a cost decrease. 2024 was the presidential election, so their costs are much higher for this year. So going into next year, they will drop back down to keep in line with trends. The civil prosecutor has a slight increase with Westlaw and some staffing changes. And the treasurer just had the new investment advisory contract was recently signed, so that accounts for that new contract. So public safety, DPSS, their bargaining had increases, but there was a reduction by pulling out, they have multiple vacancies, so we took out some of the health insurance for vacancies because there's so many. Building inspection, this did have an increase. They are, what is being included in the draft is funding for an additional residential plans examiner to help streamline everything at the building department, and increases for the staff on top of salary actions to help with, they have a very high turnover and they're having issues hiring. EMA is just the general, this is what the general fund contributes to it, which is holding flat. And the coroner's office does have a slight increase for operating expenses. The contract with Hamilton County for the toxology and the autopsies has increased for 2025. The Health and Human Services side. So the BCC non-departmental, this is now called the Complex Medical Help, which was previously known as Children with Medical Handicaps. This is a mandated 0.1 mil of our property values. We also have the DJFS mandated share in here. The contributions to public assistance, children's services, FC funding, apiary, vital statistics, as well as within that non-departmental is the general fund contribution into the dog and kennel fund. We are holding this flat for 2025 because of 2024 with the vacancies for everything that was funded. There will be a carryover that will cover the difference for 2025, which is including the new position and the changes in the salaries. TB clinic, that's a flat contract, and the veterans, they're requesting some additional drivers, but they are well within their half mil. So non-operating, I won't dig into this too much. The largest portion of it is the economic development portion. There is 1/3 of conveyance fees is restricted for economic development that we use. In this 2020, was it 2024 economic, no, 2020, yep, for economic development included a $503,000 transfer to track. Overall, economic development conveyance fees paid $2.2 million towards the track project, which is the Eastern 32 corridor. And everything else within there, the Southwest Ohio Regional Training Center, I think is what SWORT stands for. That is employees. There's other counties involved in that as well. And everything else is pretty much staying flat. If you look at the legislative and executive, that's where you can see the non-operating transfers that in 22 and 23 that went into the capital fund in there as well. So these are the items that are requests that have not been included in the draft that is up for the board consideration. So currently we are looking at about I think, Tom, is about $1.7 million revenue over the expenses. So, I'm sorry, I have 1.67 million available. Yeah, right there. Each 1%, this does not include salary actions as well. So each 1% is $323,000. That's including the fringes. So here are some of the staffing related requests that are not included. BCC program administrator, DPSS is requesting their own admin support position. Facilities, additional maintenance staff. This is to help maintain the buildings and grounds on all the 3 main campuses of the county. Municipal clerk has some 2024 salary increases above the salary action from last year. The prosecutor is requesting a civil attorney. The sheriff is requesting some additional overtime and road patrol and court services, which with the road patrol, typically we use their vacancies. So if they need additional overtime for what they are currently appropriated for, we can do a budget transfer. The school resource officer funding is being requested at 100% as it was last year. We moved some school resources a couple years ago, went from the schools paying 100% to the county absorbing 50% of it. The fund still has enough in their fund balance that I feel it can absorb that difference this year. Then there are some other various salary actions that were pulled out of the draft. For instance, Board of Elections included a 6% salary action, Common Pleas Clerk 5%, Juvenile and Probate 5%, and the Public Defender 5%. So now we have some non-staff related. The Board of Elections is requesting some additional expenses above and beyond what the trends for after presidential year election would look like. The Common Pleas Clerk is requesting a small increase for some additional supplies. Juvenile court detention, probation across the board, they're asking specifically for some psychiatrist and family visitation costs for the courts. Detention, an increase on their supplies, probation, just an increase, and then probate, some additional appointed counsel. They have had $137,000 of expenses added into their appropriation into the draft already. The municipal clerk is requesting an additional $21,000 for some postage. The prosecutor is requesting a small increase above what they have been given or draft approved. The sheriff is requesting some more for fuel. And then the Soil and Water Conservation District, currently the board contributes about $160,000. They're requesting an increase of the general fund contribution of $45,000 to help support their new ag specialist positions and programs. So this is just looking at the general fund as a whole. I looked again at the estimated year-end draft balance for the fund. I think this might be showing about $1 million too high, but we're still mid-November. So when you look at where the year-end cash balance is, you pull out economic development's portion, You add in the operating revenues, estimated revenues, subtract out the operating expenses, same with non-operating. The estimated 2025 year-end fund balance is $48.2 million. The county has policy to try to keep a reserve of 35% of the operating expenses, which is $29.37 million according to the current draft. So that would leave about an $18.8 million unrestricted fund balance at the end of 2025. This excludes, like I said, salary actions, any of those other requests, and any future capital support funding, which we'll get into a little more in some further slides. All right, well, that's it on the general fund. So now we're going to move on to other funds. Well, we had several different COVID-19 related funds. So at this time, we're down to just the American Rescue Plan Act. It was just over $40 million. That it all has to be obligated by the end of 2024, which the column to the left is obligated. Currently, there is $4.5 million, which is the balance that is not obligated, that has been earmarked for broadband expansion from session a couple weeks ago, and that would account for the full $40 million. These funds do need to be expensed by the end of 2026. Oh, I do want to just really quickly run over what these account for. So the road resurfacing was actually 4 years worth of contributing $2 million to the engineer's road resurfacing. 2025 just came in, the estimate came in lower than what the $2 million. So water projects, water sewer was Newtonsville Collection System and Wastewater Treatment Plant, Locust Lake, Bethel 132 Collection System Rehab, 9 Mile Collection System Improvements, Greenbrier Lift Station Improvements, Price Road Water Main Replacement, Middle East Fork Wastewater Treatment Plant, and Hopper Hill Water Main Replacement. So with broadband, there's been $894,000 that has been between consultants. Buxton Roundabout had $500,000 contributing to the engineering of it, as well as the Loveland Bridge sidewalk repair. Then we have the Veterans Village for just over $5 million, the Crisis Receiving Center, and miscellaneous are subrecipients with Little Fork Advocacy Center, some of the comm center expenses, some generators, and flooring at the Adult Detention Center. Okay, so now we're going to go on to all the other funds outside of the general fund and ARPA. So the Health and Human Services, these are, I'm going to try to run down these rather quickly. Job and Family Services, they are down in their appropriation requests, but it's much more in line with their historical trends of what they need. Juvenile Children's Services, that supports placement costs for delinquent and unruly youth in the county's, in the court's custody. Family Children First Council, that's part of Department of Job and Family Services. The Development and Disabilities, they are holding rather flat. Let's see where we're at. Community and Mental Health, this increase that they have is due to the Crisis Receiving Center where they have the subrecipient with the county. Animal Control, this includes the auditor's small portion for the license sales effort, as well as the shelter. There is a $105,000 increase on top of the 24 appropriation for additional vet bills to get in line with where it looks like 2024 is going to end the year, as well as the adding the kennel administrator and additional salary actions. Juvenile 4E, there's a reduction due to not being able to pay staff from there. The domestic violence shelter is monies that is required to provide shelter for victims of domestic violence in the county. The miscellaneous, this is a septic rehab financing through economic development in the One Ohio opioid settlement. I have included $500,000 in this appropriation. We still will need direction from the board. Currently, the fund has just over $2.5 million in it, with additional over $500,000 in the general fund that was not part of One Ohio, but was part of the Meyer opioid settlement. So, and if the board chooses to, throughout the year, appropriate more into the One Ohio, we can do that as you decide what you want to do with the funds. I will say that we are going to continue to get money from these settlements. I think we at least have another 16 or 17 years. And we actually only anticipated a couple $100,000 coming in 24, and ended up being more settlements kept happening and ended up being well over $1 million in 24 in revenue. Environmental and water resources.
Emily, before you move on, that when you're talking about that revenue that came in from the settlements of those opiate suits,
Mhm.
what's the have we distributed any of that money so far?
I don't know if it's been distributed. We did, when the adult detention had added an additional MAT nurse
Yes.
to their contract, we did do that increase through the opioid funding with the purchase order for that increase on the contract. I don't know if that part has been paid yet or not, but that part has been allocated, and that was just over $80,000.
Okay.
That is the only thing that we have done with the opioid funding to date.
So that money is still available.
Is available.
Okay.
I'm glad we voted to join all those settlements.
Yeah.
Move on with it.
Yeah, we just keep
Yeah.
getting
We
notices
went
and more and more. And
Yeah.
okay, so environmental. So water resources operations. This includes transfers from water and wastewater to combined services. So it inflates the category, which 6.2% million of the appropriation for 25 are transfers that happen. So that really isn't an expense. It's just moving money over into the construction. So when you take that out for each year, like 24, their operating was 24.1 million, 23 was 31, then 30, and then in 25, it's 38 million. Water resource, the construction fund, this varies depending on the capital improvement plan and the timing of all the projects. We have solid waste management, as well as the Soil and Water Conservation District. They had some large grant projects that have now come to a close, so their appropriation has dropped since 22 due to those like H2 Ohio grant. And then the stormwater, that also varies just according to planned projects. Okay, this is the general government. This excludes the general fund, pandemic related, and it excludes the county capital plan. We've got the sick and vacation liability fund, the auditor, the real estate assessment, hotel lodging, accounting system. There's a slight decrease, and that's due to the less request appropriation for the real estate assessment fund. The title administration fund does include the surplus transfer of $500,000 to the county's general fund, and there is an increase in that fund as well for expenses tied to the new elected official coming in. The prosecutor's DTAC, their appropriation has dropped, and that's due. They had needed an advance because that is tied to the property tax collection. So when those taxes aren't settled until April, sometimes there used not to be enough money in the fund to pay the salaries. There was a large delinquency collected, and so now the fund is sustainable. It does not need that, currently does not need that advance. The Recorder's Technology Fund, it had an increase in 24 based on the new processing and storage contract, and they changed their fee per document back in May. And currently there's no election grants anticipated. So now we're going to take a look at the County Capital Improvement Fund. So at the top, the 22 and 23, these are actual dollars that were spent when things were paid. Our 24 appropriation, and then is a large number that included getting the Filiger Phase 1 under contract, and then 25 appropriation. You can see what makes up the 25 appropriation, that there were projects that were planned for 24 that just have not gotten under contract yet, as well as 25 capital projects. So just over $15 million. This slide, the table is just showing you what is included. New construction, that Filiger campus, that $5.7 million right now is what's earmarked for Phase 2 and 3, both of them for Filiger campus. We do not have the estimates back, so that number could come in much higher. We'll have to wait to get the engineer's estimate. And then the juvenile expansion, this is for Phase 3, which is the previous juvenile court being remodeled into probate court. So that is what is anticipated. That is what has been approved so far for that. When we go, Now, these are just some of the things that are included in that 2025 appropriation, which is, like I said, the Philliger campus, phase 2 and 3. There is every year vehicle and computer equipment replacement programs throughout the county. There's various HVAC roof repairs. We have generator replacements. There's office moves, remodels, renovations. DPSS, which are comm center, their tower-related costs. There's a countywide upgrade of the card swipe system. There's painting projects, the sheriff matrix software, budget software, and furniture, equipment, and then the continuation of the body cameras at the sheriff's office with the deputies and within the jail. So this slide, currently there is a facilities master plan underway. I think my understanding is it's supposed to be wrapped up sometime mid-2025. These are all requests that came in from elected officials that just do not have an answer because it's pending the facilities master plan. Really quickly run down through them. The auditor and recorder is requesting a shared conference room. Board of Elections, this is all building and renovation related. Board of Elections is looking for a building. Common Police Court is additional office space built out. The clerk's office was thinking of a remodel. DJFS, a new building or possible remodel. The prosecutor building, as well as veterans, a new location. Then there's repairs such as the Common Police courtroom, one of their elevators, their elevator 204. I will say their public elevator, the one that is the only access to the half floor, is in the plan for 25 to get that repaired. But this is the second elevator. Juvenile probate air conditioning units in the adult detention has several chillers and a major roof repair replacement. This is a capital request for the commissioner's consideration sooner than later. This is regarding the domestic relations and the probate renovation. Domestic relations request to retrofit one courtroom space that is of the prior juvenile court. And probate is requesting additional renovations to the original design of the prior juvenile court space, which was the $180,000. They're requesting an additional design on top, outside of that previously approved amount. Now the county cash flow is the county capital cash flow. Again, if you just run through, you've got your cash balance, all our encumbrances. Then we have our estimated revenue, which we get, it's about $7 million comes into the general or the capital plan for the millage on property taxes. And then there's some other small revenue lines in there. Then our draft appropriations, so unobligated cash at the end of 25 is just under $3 million. So looking in the future, there is going to be either plan to hold general fund and move it over, or the county will have to take on debt because, as you saw in the facility master plan request, there are a lot of expenses in there that this plan, I'd say the capital plan takes in, about $7.5 million a year, and that continues to increase slightly due to property valuations, but it does not keep up with the needs of the capital fund. Okay, internal services. So we have the health insurance fund. This is what covers the health plans for all county employees. This is funded by part by the employees. However, that has been held for, I think, is it 5 years in a row now? 6? Going on 6 years for 2025, so that the county has absorbed the rest of it. Switching to the SEBCO, we will, I think 25 will have we'll get a see how this plays out, and hopefully we'll pay off the runoff from being self-insured and moving to not being self-insured. And hopefully this fund will be able to maintain the balance, the healthy balance it needs. Fleet, it does reflect an additional maintenance staff that is included in the plan. They are self-funded. However, when they do not have enough revenue, they do have to take an advance from the general fund. Moving this maintenance staff into fleet does require that amount to be transferred in there. TTD covers our telephone systems, and then workman's comp covers the workman's comp for the county. Transportation, here's the the engineer, the motor vehicle and gas, we were just discussing their fund. There is an increase, and they have about $4.1 million in road projects and resurfacing and $6.1 million in bridge projects included in their appropriation. CTC includes $1.2 million in capital purchases for vehicles, park and rides, repairs, routing system, which those are majority of the capital is covered by their 5307 grant funds. In the improvement districts, those are the residential and transportation improvement districts within the county. I'm sorry, that's the TID, the Transportation Improvement District. All right, within the criminal justice non-general fund, the juvenile court, this is the reclaim grant. We were discussing that we're having to move money from this grant into the general fund. And then there's also the Title 1D that provides funding for teachers at the detention facility, and that comes through the schools. The sheriff, this includes, majority of this is the sheriff's contracts that we'd previously discussed. There is currently 18 deputies that are between schools, townships, schools and the townships. There is also within there the concealed and carry, narcotics, forfeiture funds, DUI, enforcement. We have the common pleas and the municipal court probation funds. Those are just funding through various grants that help with programs within probation. The judicial services, just quickly, when you look through all this, these are either prosecutor advocate grant, the law library comes mostly through traffic court fines. The municipal court and clerk has a computerization. The juvenile, the common pleas clerk and court, both, and as well as probate and domestic is not, but they all have the computerization fund. If you look in 22, they all made a contribution into the new case management system that is currently being implemented. So economic development, CDBG has been very active the past couple years in providing, this is their capital fund. It's been providing priorities, is bringing projects to the community. Economic development, capital investments. This is where money sometimes is put from economic development earmarked for specific things. For instance, the $2 million in 22, that was moved over for the Buxton Roundabout. And then the $3.1 million in 23 was for the track commitment. That was the money that was, I previously discussed, that was contributed to the track, as well as some of the other townships contributed some money as well. And then the home investment partnership, this is the new home funds. We get a yearly allocation from HUD Affordable Housing moving forward, and this is a formula-based fund. As we were just talking about debt, if the special assessment debt is typically tied to the water and sewer, assessments, getting those in line, and then our general obligation debt is paid off for the county. So I think that's something, I know when Mary left, she was very proud that no new debt had been taken on, that we like not having the debt. Public safety, we've got EMA, LEPC, FEMA grant came in just recently for next year. The wireless 911, that's a revenue that comes in off the wireless bills. So this is everything but general fund that we just quickly reviewed. Our 2025 draft appropriation is just under $253 million, which is a slight drop from last year. However, last year, 21 million of that was ARPA funding. So there's actually an increase, and the majority of that is all tied to the environmental and water resources. So just one more slide to show the overall draft summary of the entire county by fund. This is looking at what our estimated revenues are, the draft appropriation, and then the projected fund balance. The general operating is not the exact same as the very first slide, Commissioner, if you noticed, but that is because that also includes the sick and vacation liability, because this is by fund type. So if you have any questions, you can feel free, and or I'll be around over the next week or so before our next presentation.
A lot of work. Thank you very much for burning the midnight oil every night and getting it
Literally.
accomplished. Thank you.
Obviously, capital expenditures was one of the things you talked about that, with the current money that's gained from millage is not sustainable. One of the things just to keep in mind on that is that as capital funds actually are received, or, monies or our revenue is actually received for that fund, that would require a slowdown to make sure, you don't spend more than what you have. That's kind of how it's done. Capital expenditures are one-time money, and then it starts to be replenished. It's not like a 30-year commitment. Eventually the project is over. So,
But I will say we do use those capital funds also for the maintaining of the buildings and grounds. There is maintenance budget for facilities, but that is a much smaller line item dollar amounts versus the larger renovations. And as we know, the HVACs and generators are not cheap.
and then the fact that all of that goes together with this overall plan of facilities of, what happens on this campus. That's one of the things that, we constantly have to look at, is that you have a lot of requests from all over the campuses. And I think what Wade lists that is how many buildings that Clermont County has, 127, 147? There you go. And when they say buildings, they mean anything is a building. A generator building is a building, even though it's not occupied. When it comes down to occupied buildings, how many buildings? About 43? 42. So, with that being said, that's.
Mr. Lenny, do you want to give a quick update on the facilities master plan and kind of where we're at right now? You can step up to the podium real quick, and that'll give the board a general idea of the path forward.
And the point is, all of these requests, are going to be taken a look at in the facilities master plan to find out how that all fits together.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Hey, Ralph.
Assistant County Administrator.
There you go.
Where we're at right now, we kicked off this week the first inspections of the buildings, evaluations that's being done. It's being looked at by our consultant. Facility staff is making sure that everybody was aware of when they're going to be coming through the buildings, as well as escorting them, answering any questions that they may need. The goal is to have that process probably finish by the end of this month, just doing the general walkthrough. In December, they would be doing the evaluations of the building systems, which are talking about the air handling units, backup generators, the plumbing system, electricals, and they should have that completed by the end of the year, and preliminary analysis provided to us with a formal one coming later. Then in January, we're setting up the appointments with each of the users in all the buildings, the elected officials, the department heads, as to what they see they need in the next 5, 10, and 15 years in order to put together a master plan. What will impact what we need is the condition of the buildings, the cost of a new facility, if one is recommended, versus the cost of renovating or upgrading the building systems in our existing ones. So we will get a plan that we put together. We'll have some cost impacts that comes with it. And the goal is to have a report ready by the end of May, 1st of June.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Ralph.
Wade, thanks for being the walkthrough person too back there. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I think that's it. Emily, great job, as always.
Any feedback, and we'll take that into consideration, and we'll have an update at the December 2nd session.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
We have already handled public participation, which was item D. We will move to item E. Board, you have had a consent agenda. It's been prepared for you. You've had it early. It's time to look it over. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda and further discussed in the non-consent?
No.
Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided.
Make the motion. I'll second.
Been moved in second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes, we'll move to the non-consent agenda, which starts on page 7. Page 7, item number 15, it's a recommendation of the Board of County Commissioners adopt a resolution 139-24 to approve payment to vendors in the amount of $1,470,433.47 as outlined in the BCC approval invoice report for checks dated November 20th, 2024, BCC directed prepaid invoice reports, and the procurement card transaction report is presented by the county auditor on 11/18/2024, and further authorizing the county auditor to issue warrants pursuant to section 319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 16. Emily, you're back.
It's going to be short and sweet. I have a recommendation to resolve to approve and authorize changes in the annual appropriation resolution number 181-23 for calendar year 2024. This is 2 supplemental appropriations. The first one is for the COVID recovery other expenses of $1,759,746.01. And this is to be able to finalize the last amount of the ARPA to appropriate it. Previous years' purchase orders maybe came in, the contract came in less than what they thought, so those were re-entered. So now we just need to put the budget back in place. And then the other one is for the general fund sheriff fleet maintenance for $20,000, and this is for additional fuel and maintenance to close out the year.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 16. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Thank you, Emily. Item number 17. Jennifer Hartley. Jennifer,
Good morning.
thanks for being here this morning.
Recommendation to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and Courtview Justice Systems Incorporated, doing business as Equivant. Previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on April 20th, 2022 for the case management system for the Clermont County Courts of Common Pleas, Clermont County Municipal Court, Clermont County Common Pleas Clerk of Courts, and Clermont County Municipal Court Clerk, with the amendment adding the ePay Plus addendum to process transactions with the use of financial transaction devices for a setup fee per office in the amount of $5,803, effective upon execution pursuant to the terms and conditions of the agreement and amendment and contingent upon the release of the required purchase orders.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 17. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation? Questions? Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 18. Connie, morning.
Item number 18 is a recommendation to execute a service agreement between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and TIPCO Automated Systems, out of Circleville, Ohio, for the provision of EVA AI-powered virtual assistants administrated by the Department of Job and Family Services at the rate specified for a total amount not to exceed $44,200. It's effective November the 1st of 24 through October 31st of 25, pursuant to the terms and conditions specified and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 18. Do I have a motion for approval?
I will make that motion.
I will second.
Been moved and second. Any conversation? Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 19.
19 is the recommendation to authorize the Director of the Department of Job and Family Services to execute the Comprehensive Case Management and Employment Program, CCMEP, worksite agreements on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners to be utilized by Clermont County Community Services Incorporated, the employer of record for the CCMEP program, for placement of participants in the 2025 Work Experience Program, effective for the period of October the 1st of 24 through September 30th of 25, pursuant to and in compliance with Section 329.04B of the Ohio Revised Code.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 19. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Anything further? Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Connie. Item number 20, Loud Blue.
Item 20 is a recommendation to adopt resolution number 140-24 to determine to make improvements for the construction, operation, and maintenance of the Felicity wastewater treatment plant screen replacement project located in Franklin Township and designated this project number 6402-60242 in conformance with the detailed plan specifications and estimates of costs and financing, and to approve the request to advertise for bids pursuant to the plans and specs, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on Thursday, November 28th, 2024. Schedule a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on Thursday, December 12th, 2024 at 1:00 p.m. with bids to be received until 2:00 p.m. local time on Thursday, December 19th, 2024. Here in the Office of the Board of County Commissioners, where they will be publicly open and read aloud shortly thereafter, and the legal notice will also be posted on the county's website. So the current screen that we're going to be replacing was installed in 1994. It's about 30 years old. It is in need of replacement. The engineer's estimate for the project is $507,500.
Board, you heard the reading of item number 20. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion. I'll second.
Been moved and second. Anything further? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item 21, Lon.
Item 21 is a recommendation to award the bid for furnishing and delivery of chemicals for the Clermont County Waterworks system pursuant to the specifications to the following vendors as the lowest and best bids received on October 10th, 2024, for a total estimated annual amount of $905,678.70, and to execute the contracts relative thereto effective 1/1/2025 through 12/31/2025, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions, and the award of bids therefore contingent upon the adoption of the annual appropriations for 2025 and the issuance of the required purchase orders.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 21 for additional chemicals and delivery. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Anything further? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran? Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item 22.
Item 22 is a recommendation to execute contract for professional services between the board and the Kleinders Group Incorporated out of Westchester, Ohio, for engineering design services for project number 6401-60247 for the State Route 131 water main replacement project located in Miami Township. For their proposal dated August 22nd, 2024, for a total amount not to exceed $14,000, with said services to be completed within 90 consecutive calendar days upon issuance of a written notice to proceed from the Water Resources Department, exclusive of county review time and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order, and in conjunction with the Milford School Public Roadway Improvement Project. So the schools are widening State Route 131 and adding a turn lane. There's a 1959 6-inch cast iron water main that'll be underneath the widened portion of the road. We're going to replace that with 12-inch. We have a lot of main breaks in that area. In the future, we'll end up replacing the remainder of the project.
Where are you doing that on?
That's on. It's on 131, right where Eagle Way comes in from Milford.
Oh, okay.
Milford High School.
Good. Thank you.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 22. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Anything further? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor? Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Item number 23, Board, before we go on with item number 23, Tom, do you want to cover that real quick? I understand we're going to request to table that today.
We'll consider tabling that issue. We're waiting for some additional information from the board's legal counsel. So if we can table that to December 2nd, 2024.
So times the request is for times certain to December 2nd? Okay. Do I have a motion to table item 23?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Let's just talk about it a little bit. Let's just talk about the challenges that are associated with this. And these really aren't a lot of challenges. I know, Chris, you're here. If you want to come up to the podium, that'd be great. This particular agreement, as I understand it, is to install broadband, which what we would really like would be fiber optics cable placed in the ground within the easements that are provided for roadways around our campuses. And my understanding is that the reason we want to go this route is because as the state of Ohio is going to upgrade, access to internet and speeds all around us. Our facilities, the connection is not great. It's old. It's kind of piecemeal. Different kinds of conductivity medium are used in different places. And so what this would do is this would put fiber optics to all of our campus facilities so that when that new broadband is provided and conductivity at obviously increased speeds, and keep in mind that speeds are never going to be slower than they are today, then we would have the infrastructure to be able to operate at those speeds. Anything?
That's absolutely correct. This project started out as connectivity to our unserved and underserved folks in the county. And then the state of Ohio and Alta Fiber had come together as a public-private partnership and decided that they are going to do that. So in our feasibility study from 2023 recommended we did that. And as we were moving into that phase for the high-level design, construction information, we learned about that process that the state and Alta Fiber are doing, which basically took over the project that we were going to do. However, as part of that project, we were always discussing connecting our campuses, because right now we are served by, like any other private industries, we're just paying Alta Fiber for a connection from the street to here. So we have no redundancy. We have no physical connection between the campuses. And as this technology continues to grow and more information is stored, more data is required. If you look at it through a pipe, we only have so much capability right now. And as we add this fiber, it would expand that so that for the near future, we would have adequate and adequate speeds to connect our facilities, such as Job and Family Services, the Treasurer's Office, all these places where residents and businesses of the county come. We can have all the high-speed internet we have out there, but if we can't get that into our facilities, which is what this project would do, then it does us no good to have that high speed out on the perimeter. So this project is really going to be a game changer for the county.
And one of the things, just to ask about that, Tom, I know that our Board of Elections, obviously there's a security issue with that and how, those communications are provided, and I would think us having control of what we actually have on our campuses goes absolutely along with that. That if there is a point of contention with that, it would seem to me that we as a county should really control our own destiny when it comes to, how we pick those services up and from, what kind of provider, especially on our campuses.
I think redundancy is a big issue as well, right, Chris? I mean, that was one of the major driving factors behind this.
Yeah.
Make sure that there is an issue we can still continue to operate.
Yeah.
What we can't control is what is outside on the worldwide network. We can't control that. But what we can control is what's on our property and on our campuses. And I would think if any other conversation should be had, that's something that you should be allowed to do as counties. So, and the issue comes down to, are you allowed to install this fiber in the ground without being a PUCO listed registered
The word is
provider?
provider that was used. in
Right.
that.
And we're not providing internet service. We're just providing the infrastructure, same as the infrastructure was put in out at South Afton.
Correct.
We built that infrastructure. Now, we didn't build it. We paid to have it built, but we had a contractor build it, which would be the same way this would happen.
Correct. Yeah, we would not be providing utility to anyone. We
Right.
would be selling it. It would strictly be for our purposes and connectivity, because the technology we have at different buildings, different campuses are different. And with this project, it would be 100% fiber coming to all the facilities, which fiber run, when you have coax or copper, those are what they call legacy infrastructure, which are just going to be outdated real soon. They have a capacity limit. The fiber does not, and it can run both ways. So that the redundancy is, so if something breaks between two of the campuses, that's fine, because we can still connect all three through the redundancy loop.
Right. And even if you meet the speed requirements of today with this particular installation, which is 100 BPS, is that somewhere, or MPS?
That's
somewhere
the
around that?
requirement that the feds have that we would have to provide, the bare minimum we would have to provide if we were doing something as that middle mile loop. But absolutely, yeah, we that's just the bare minimum. You can go above that.
And you know, today at your home, many people are upgrading those services to what the provider says they can provide, which is 300.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go to
And
Alta Fiber now,
like I
you
said,
can,
it's never going to be slower than it is today.
and it's going to be more and more reliant on the technology and the speed of the technology, and more information is going to be going through those.
And typically, this would give you an opportunity to run a multiple layered conduit into the ground that has 2 strands of fiber and probably, one annular opening if you ever had to put in a new one.
Correct.
So,
We would the proposal would be to have a little bit oversized conduit so that we could add that, because you certainly don't want to have to go out and do it again.
right.
Yeah.
So we're looking at putting this off to the next meeting. Is that correct, Mr.
Mhm.
Eigel?
To the second. Yep.
Good time.
Okay.
We'll get an answer then.
Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. So we have tabled that item till the 2nd of December. We will move on with item number 24.
This is a recommendation to authorize David Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute a subrecipient agreement between the Clermont County Board of Commissioners and the Ohio Department of Health Bureau of Infectious Disease Tuberculosis Program in Columbus, Ohio, to offset the cost of public health activities associated with tuberculosis cases in an amount not to exceed $3,800, effective for the period of 7/1/2024 through 12/31/2024, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions in the grant agreement.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 24. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Anything further? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, now I understand item 25 is going to be handled by Angie Livesay.
Yes, good morning, board.
Morning.
Item 25 is the recommendation to appoint and/or reappoint the following individuals to serve as members of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, CJCC, in their official capacity, to acknowledge the resignations of prior CJCC members and to acknowledge the revised membership of the CJCC, with all terms ending 12/31/24, all as described below, pursuant to and in compliance with Section 514934 of the Ohio Revised Code. In the event of a vacancy, the remaining members shall, by majority vote, promptly appoint a replacement who complies with the requirements of ORC 514934 to serve the remainder of the term.
Thank you, Angie. You've heard the reading of item number 25. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Anything further? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes,
Commissioner Corcoran?
Same.
thank you. And that concludes our non-consent agenda. Tom, we have any additions?
I believe we do. Isn't that correct? We have a Clermont County engineer replat of lots for the following subdivisions in Goshen, Stone Lick, and Union Township. We'll have to add that on.
Okay, board, you've heard the need to have an add-on for a recommendation to execute some record plats. Do I have a motion to add it to the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, Tom, would you like to go over the actual plots that
Sure.
being requested?
It's the estates at Stone Pillars Farm subdivision, new lots 101A through 105A, 112A, 114A, and 115A. Owensville Heights subdivision replat to create a new lot 15A. LW Mayer subdivision to create new lot 2A, and Terrence Ridge subdivision to create new lots 321 through 344.
Board, you've heard the reading of this additional motion to replat lots in Goshen, Stone Lick, and Union Township as outlined and as read. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran? Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Do we have any other additions, Tom?
Well,
Well, then we will move to item H. Item H is county elected officials discussion. I've been informed that Sandy Tahat, Human Resources, would like to review new personal policies, section 409 through 412. Morning.
Morning. As stated, I have two sections of Chapter 4, which will complete Chapter 4. You did the rest of that the prior session. 4.09 is the vacation policy. So currently, our rates of vacation accrual are currently set at Ohio Revised Code at the minimums. I am proposing to advance those accrual rates in order to be more competitive with both recruitment and retention. So I'm looking to propose 1 week of vacation after 6 months of employment. The second week would come in after the completion of 1 year. At years 5, 10, and 15, an additional week would come in. So that accelerates it a little bit from what we currently have. Vacation accrual, as you know, is based on public service time. I've also added in there, current policy says an employee has 30 days after hire to get us documentation of that prior service so that it can be taken into account for vacation accrual. I've extended that timeline to 60 days. We've come across several occasions where it's kind of hard for employees to get that within 30 days, depending on who they're trying to get that from. I also corrected language to read that accrued vacation leave is not paid out if an employee leaves employment before 1 year of service time, as opposed to 1 year of employment with the Board of County Commissioners. That complies with Ohio Revised Code. If an employee has accrued and is due vacation, we have to pay that out. So the current policy also restricts an employee from being able to use vacation until they've been employed with the board for 1 year. I'm removing that language as well so that employees can use vacation as it is accrued and credited to them with supervisor approval. I clarified policy that if an employee is scheduled for vacation and becomes ill, they can cancel the vacation and substitute sick leave. However, if they've scheduled vacation and they're out on vacation and become ill, it's still vacation that's going to be charged. If they remain ill and unable to come at the end of that vacation, then they can convert that to sick leave or charge sick leave at that point forward. With regards to the annual personal day, that's granted on January 1st. If an employee is hired after January 1st, they're granted the annual personal after completion of their probationary period. However, we do have some probationary periods that are 1 year in length, so that could result in maybe almost 2 years with someone not getting an annual personal day. So I've changed that language to reflect that they would receive that personal day either at the conclusion of their probationary period or 6 months of employment, whichever comes first. Moving on to tuition assistance, 4.12. Eligibility for tuition assistance is contingent on an employee meeting expectations on their most recent evaluation. Policy was expanded to include if the employee's been approved but falls below expectations, or there's disciplinary action or other performance-related issues, maybe they're on a work improvement plan, that they will still receive reimbursement for any courses that's already been approved, but they would not be eligible for courses moving forward. Having said that, on their next evaluation or if things improve, they can then become re-eligible again, so it doesn't forever bar them. And the biggest change is also the amount of tuition assistance. I don't believe that amount has been changed in quite some time. And having a son looking at colleges, expenses have gone up tremendously. So I am proposing increasing the annual tuition assistance maximum from $2,000 to $5,000. Anything, I think it's under federal law, $5,250 is tax-free. So the $5,000 seems to be, at a quick search, the more common threshold. With that increase, I'm also proposing the continued employment credit that employees receive from $50 a month to $125 a month. So it keeps the repayment duration around the same 3-year mark, even though I'm raising both. Lastly, policy was updated to reflect current procedural approval steps for just calculating and putting through that agreement. It was kind of out of date, just the process. Those don't come through the board a second time, but they go to Tom. So we just clarified that language a little bit. That's a broad stroke of most of the changes. What I would like to ask is, when I started presenting recommended policy changes, we kind of said, we're going to go through all the changes and then ask the board to approve the policy manual all at one time, with rare exception. This is the one rare exception I'd like to request, is the vacation policy, because of the positive impact it can have on recruitment and retention. So I don't know if the board has any feedback or any decisions on the proposed changes, if you're in agreement, to possibly bring that back on your December 2nd session for possible vote.
Are you asking for 412 also?
Please.
412 included in
I
that?
don't need to, but I can.
Okay.
The vacation, I think, was the larger need.
Board, is there a need to come back on the 2nd, or do you want, are you comfortable with it?
I'm fine on the vacation end of it. I just would like to have a clarification on the graduation reimbursement. Are we doing a percentage on grade level, like 100%?
That remained unchanged. There is the
On a sliding scale?
proportional.
Okay,
Bear with me.
it's all right. When I reviewed it, I was just trying to go back and figure out whether or not that was in there. And
That remained unchanged. So if for a grade level of C, it's 60% reimbursement.
Okay,
For a
then
B,
we're all right.
it's 65, and A is 75% of the tuition.
Okay. My other question is, and I don't even know if that was in there, as far as vacation policy, inclement weather. Let's pretend you're on vacation, you took vacation, you're in Florida, and the buildings are shut down because no one can get to work. Does the employee still get charged for their vacation day?
I will go back and look at the emergency closure policy. There's a separate one for that.
Okay.
And I know we've talked about 2 potential scenarios. We did include, if I recall correctly, if people can remote work, but if they're on vacation, they're not going to be remote working.
Yeah.
But I will take a look at that.
Okay, thank you. But other than that, I mean, that doesn't need to hold up today, does it, for vacation, as far as I'm concerned, of this, or 4.09 or 12? I've reviewed them all. We're good.
So you good with these 2 sections?
I'm great. I'm good. Anybody else?
Then I'd ask for a motion that we approve the new personnel policies, section 4.09 and 412. Board, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. Any further conversation?
I would
Roll.
just ask if I can get an effective date, maybe 30 days.
Mhm.
Because I'll have to make adjustments in my munis and notify
Okay.
all the departments.
So we'll go back and ask for an amendment to that motion that it will be effective in 30 days. Is that okay, Claire? Were you amend?
Yeah, that's fine to amend. Mr. Eichel, is there anything I'm missing here just before we go ahead and vote on it? I just happened to think.
I don't think so. I guess the questions that you had, we can address at a later time if there's an issue.
But
What was
the
the
question-
date again? Effective?
30 days.
30 days,
Okay.
that's fine.
Bonnie,
Amend it
will
to-
you-
Yes, because
agree
I
to
think the
amend?
question would be addressed in the emergency office
Emergency.
closure, how that's handled.
Right.
as
And
opposed
so
to
maybe at the next
vacation.
meeting, you can just give the board an update to see if there's a conflict there, they can
Will do.
make a change
Right.
Absolutely.
if needed.
Thank you.
Motion's been amended as first and second. So roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor? Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
Thank
Go
you.
forth and
Thank
conquer.
you. Thanks, Lord.
Any other county staff elected official discussion? Chris?
If I may,
Sure.
I'm bearing hardware.
King Perry Hardware. Oh, my goodness.
We have the Duke Energy Visionary Achievement Award, Excellence in Economic Development for Clermont County. Those of you know, we received this yesterday. Ready Cincinnati hosted their annual partner breakfast, so we attended that, and we were happy to receive the Visionary Achievement Award. So I had a few things that I was going to say yesterday, but there wasn't
Didn't
really a
nobody let
time
you
for a
talk?
speech. So I know you guys, want to be here for a couple more hours. So I'll go.
Sure. Good.
Well, I just wanted to say a couple things that I think is important, and what led the county to receive this award. Because, as you know, the Cincinnati region is booming all over the place, but they recognize Clermont County for our vision. So economic development doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens because people, strap up their boots every day and they get to work and solve problems, because there's not been an economic development project I've worked on where you haven't run across some project or some problems that if they don't get solved real quick could kill the deal. So we've been extremely visionary, my predecessors. But I just wanted to say the foundation of the success has begun with the county commissioners. The commissioners recognized the evolving dynamics of the industry and the need for the county to take the proactive steps to purchase and prepare property for sale. This is what the market wants, and this is what the board has decided before I was here to take these steps to get us to this point. So this proactive strategy has been instrumental in redeveloping the former Ford plant, getting the site ready for the Nestle Purina and the Ivy Point area, the TQL area. So I want to thank the commissioners and our partners such as Lyle Water Resources, Ready Cincinnati, Duke Energy, all the folks that are involved in this economic development success. So we'll find a nice place to put this out there so that everybody can see. But I just wanted to put this on the record to know that there's a lot of great things happening in Clermont County. And I think this year we've really been noticed. We've had the Cincinnati Business Courier write-up that was at the end of September. Business View magazine is getting ready to do a spotlight on Clermont County, which will be out in December. So I think the secret is out that this is the place to do business. So,
Chris, what about your staff? What'd you do? You hid them all the way today? They don't want, they're camera shy after yesterday?
They're working. I'm the one that gets to go. No, seriously,
What a great
staff in
staff.
economic development, community development. I would put our staff up against any county in Ohio.
So would I.
And I'm serious about that.
Yeah.
They do, economic development. Just when you see a building going up, that's because there's been years of work to get that property to this point. Most of that's on the private side, but boy, they call us when they need us, or we're out working with them. So the staff and the community economic development department and the building department are all key factors to the success.
Well, one thing we did not get to do yesterday when we were down to Ready is take a picture with your staff. We took a picture with all the Ready staff that were down there, but would your folks be amenable to that?
Let me as you wrap up your meeting, I can.
Is Kennedy here today?
She had a dentist appointment. She wasn't here when I
was just going to
I
say.
walked over, but I hope
You have to get Kennedy
You
in
can
here.
always wait a little later. That's okay in the day. That's all right.
But I know our public information folks took a lot of pictures, and I'm assuming there'll probably be some stuff come out. I know I was on LinkedIn this morning. Duke Energy had put out some information on there.
Nice.
So
Nice.
We'll see how
Not,
many
we
of
could
them
do
she
it.
turns up real quick.
Yeah, if not, we could do it on the 2nd.
Okay. That'd be fine.
it a
too.
Give them a little notice.
We can't leave Kennedy out.
Oh, no, we can't leave Kennedy out. We're going to hear about
Probably
it.
Photoshop her in there, right?
Oh, we
We'll
could.
see if they show
Get
up.
a Photoshopper.
None of them will come over. You watch and see.
You know what? If Kennedy's there, do what she's doing right now.
Gail was part of it. I think she's
There's Scott.
There's one.
from what I understand.
Scott, are they all over there?
Everyone but Kennedy.
Oh,
Kennedy's
boy. Then we.
missing?
He doesn't do anything anyway.
Oh,
I love it. I love it. Oh, this is going to be great.
Maybe we can do this at the December 2nd meeting.
Yeah, but sure, that you still showcase who's here today. That would be nice. Well, come
Yeah.
up to the podium, people. Come on. Oh, we
Here.
don't care if you don't have your tie today. Just go up and do it.
So
Just get a picture with them. A
Right.
great crew.
Come on up here.
So we have, this is the staff that facilitates all of our community economic development. We have Sarah Parkin, our executive assistant, Scott Gafford, our development specialist, Leonard Kendall, who's our, he's a GIS tech and past planner. We're looking for a new planner. And Ryan Kent, our GIS developer.
Great team.
And then there's some folks missing, but
We'll get them on the 2nd. You have to come back on December 2nd.
Well, at least take a picture with them now so they can show.
This is the
We'll take
team.
another one.
Who did that?
Do we want to?
Yeah,
Okay, I
come on
guess we're
down.
going down.
You guys go out there in front of the podium. You guys didn't get to be part of the picture.
Yeah, some people like to remain in the shadows.
They'll all fill in between.
Who wants to go in front? We'll fly.
Oh, Scott, let Scott hold it. You said,
Oh,
there you go, Scott.
I know,
I love calling him out like that. All right, keep your hands to
You need to
yourself.
move my way?
You can move in just a little bit. Hold there.
On my hands position.
Perfect. All right. Look here. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. Hold there. 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Good.
All right.
Thanks, you guys.
All right.
Great work. all of you. And you too, Dale. Thank you. You're going to get in the next picture when we do it all for the prior team. No, you should. Absolutely, you should.
I just took the phone call.
No, you should be in there too. Okay, moving along.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other county staff elected official discussion?
No, sir.
None?
None.
I would ask one more. Angie Livesay, would you come up here to the podium a minute? Angie, there have been many times that we have had public participation, and you have been a trooper sitting there and having to endure what the commissioners endure. And I just wanted to say to you, thank you so much for the comments that have been made about your professionalism at the dog kennel. What I want to tell you is that we as commissioners moved you into that, where we were in dire straits and we needed help. And I would just say that you have grasped a hold of that job. And even though I know, you had said you lack some experience there, I would have to say that you have climbed up the ladder very, very quickly and have become very well versed in how to run that animal shelter. And I just wanted to tell you personally, thank you. Thanks for all that you do. And I also wanted to point out, for those who talked about this morning about raises for a certain people, I just wanted to make sure that you got a chance to comment. You were instrumental in coming forward to us and identifying a disparity in the workers that were at the dog shelter. So if you would just expound on that a little bit and how that was evaluated and really was resolved.
Sure. We had staff really across the board that we did some research and found that we could raise some raises or raise some rates and would be more competitive with other kennels in the area. And we also have a really hardworking crew that I wanted to make sure we're getting paid fairly.
Very nice.
You bet. And we want to acknowledge them because obviously of all of the the information that comes in here that's negative, there are many things that they do that are great, and so we want to make sure that you get a chance to tell them that. And many of the other commissioners.
It was also brought up again this morning about the washer and dryer and money that had been donated and where is it? So you want to, for one more time, respond to that?
Timely, actually. I have a phone call with facilities this afternoon with the architect regarding the washer and dryer project. The architect has a few more questions as they're working on the specifications.
And just touch about, I know you've touched on that washer and dryer capability right now. What is our capability versus what it used to be?
Right now, we have two functioning we have a washer dryer combo unit and then a separate washer and dryer. So before probably 7-8 months ago, we only had the washer and dryer separate. And now we have really double the capacity of what we did.
And this actual renovation will really require the installation of utilities that we do not currently have in that building.
Correct.
That correct statement.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we had to go through an engineer. It's not like going out and buying one and putting it in your home. This
This will
And-
kind of turn this into a laundromat kind of situation there.
Right. And keep in mind that modifying a government building, especially here in the county, that is a public improvement project. And public improvement projects are not handled like other projects. They have to go through a full-scale evaluation, including an architect being assigned, drawings, bid specifications, the whole gamut of a project. So, it's easy when you take a look at a situation like that to think, well, in private industry, we would just call a plumbing company and they would immediately start on that. That's not how those kind of projects are done in a county and or federal, project setting. So I just wanted to say thanks. And we are actively looking, to find a kennel manager. And that particular position is very, very tough to find, and so I know you've got 3 new people starting at the kennel coming up Monday, and they will be doing Kennel Tech. All right. And any prospects on have we gotten to interview lately any kennel managers or people that were interested in that job?
We have an interview being scheduled right now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Well, thanks again. Claire?
And one other thing, there was concern this morning expressed that one individual has never gotten a response to any of the emails and concerns. And Angie, I have directly shown you where I have responded to any of the comments that have come in. I've responded back saying, please come in, sit down and talk at your convenience, time, place. You and I have also set up appointments for people to come in and sit down and talk at their convenience. So I will tell you that is not true. I stand by your vet techs that you have in there, as I'm sure the entire board does, that they really care about the animals. It is not like they are not getting the care. And I think a lot of people, we all have concerns about what's going to happen to animals, not only in our own homes, but whether they're in a shelter or not. But it's so easy to judge when you're on the outside and looking things up online and making quotes of what we should or should not do. And if you're not in there really actively working every day and seeing what the staff is doing, I know you for one, I've gotten phone calls from you because on a Sunday morning, you're over there or you're being called in because we have an emergency, or somebody needs something, a dog transported, or just taking care of the staff's morale. Which, Tom, I know you took lunch over to them the whole bit and everything, trying to just make sure that everybody's taken care of. We're not closing our eyes to this. Contrary to what has gone out there, we really are not. And I thank you for everything and well-deserved raise for all you do.
You bet. Thanks, Angie. And let the staff know that we appreciate them.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, we are at that part, item I, which is member comments. Board members, any comments further about today's meeting or anything coming up that's exciting?
CCAO's coming up.
You bet. It is coming up. It won't be
And
long.
we're going to have a new president.
Won't be long. That is
Right?
true. That's what I understand. Always remember, whenever you are nominated in the as an officer of CCAO, that they are allowed to make nominations from the floor. I've seen that happen once, so it can get competitive. So
Well, we'll just make an announcement
you bet.
at our next meeting.
You bet. And you all are more than welcome to come to CCAO if you would like to come to the dinner. And that is on December 5th. Starts at 5:30 with a reception, and then dinner will be served about 6. Installation of officers will be done at that time. So by all means, well, thank you. Well, if there's nothing further, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Been moved in second. Anything else? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Thank you for being here with us today, this 20th day of November. I can't believe we're already in November and we're getting close to Christmas there.
No, we're close to Turkey Day.
Well, I know.
Let's not bypass that one.
You bet. So thanks for being in attendance today, and we will see you this coming Monday, right?
No, 12/2.
That's right. Not until 12/2, which is a Monday. Is that right?
It is a
12/2,
Monday.
Monday.
Yes.
So we'll see you then. Thanks for being here with us today.